lived in Rhode Island, which is a very small state, and there were some gay people there, and we all pretty much knew each other, and that was as much as I knew about community, I guess.
I came from like a really, really, really tiny rural town, and although I'm sure there were plenty of gay people there, no one really talked about it. It was just sort of like a very closeted gay community.
I did have a lot of gay friends in DC. It's a fairly open and accepting community. A lot of people close to me in my past have been either homosexual or bisexual, so I have had a lot. I had a lot of experience with the LGBT community before coming to Emerson, but not anything on the level of the Emerson community.
I come from a really small high school, so there weren't a lot of people in that community at my school, so it was really kind of a closeted issue. So I didn't really have a lot of negative experiences necessarily, like I was never bullied, but it wasn't really accepted either. You had to kind of keep a low profile and just kind of pretend you weren't gay.
I'm not sure. I think that largely we're LGB friendly. I don't know if we're necessarily friendly to transgender people, and I mean that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just not something people have given much thought to. I don't think they know a lot about transgender issues. And I think there's a difference between being friendly and being indifferent. I think we're considered friendly because being gay is a non-issue, but not necessarily I don't think we're especially friendly to LGBT people.
I don't know, I don't have experience with other campuses, but like, Emerson's pretty gay. Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's a lot more LGBT friendly than like Brigham Young, but like I can't say if it's the most LGBT friendly in the country because I've only been to like a handful of campuses in the country.
We deserve the title because we're definitely very open and accepting of most students. It's not, if you're gay here, it's not really a big deal. It's more about what you can do rather than what your sexuality is. So I do think the campus deserves its title as the most gay friendly.
I think for the most part they don't come up. I mean, unless you're taking like a queer theory class, it's not mentioned very often.
I have a queer theory class, but like, it doesn't span all the perspectives, and it doesn't, you know, it's not just brought up in specific writing classes and things like that, as far as I know.
From my experience, they do it pretty well, but I would have to say I've had limited experience only having been here for 2 semesters. I know that there are a lot of queer studies courses available.
I think it does a fairly good job. Like one of my classes last semester, we did a whole unit on the gay rights movement in the 60s and 70s. And in other classes too, I've been able to explore it on my own, such as in research writing and in certain other like dress codes class and all those sorts of things. So I do think that the teachers and the professors here are at least open to including it in their academic programs.
I think a lot of people, particularly women, will say that there is a huge gay population at Emerson, perhaps out of frustration that, you know, there aren't a lot of eligible heterosexual men. But I think that's largely a myth. I think that we're LGBT friendly and thus, or whatever, and thus people are drawn to this school and thus there is a higher concentration of LGBT students, but I don't think that I don't think it's every man is gay at Emerson. I think that's kind of a myth.
I think a lot of the people making those claims are straight girls who are sexually frustrated and therefore like to place the blame on there being a lot of gay guys at Emerson. And while there are a lot of gay guys at Emerson, I feel like it's just that, you know, Emerson is known for being very gay friendly, and so they chalk their unwillingness to like find straight guys at Emerson to the fact that, oh, everyone's just gay.
No, I mean, being one of like the 5, I always joke about being one of the 5 straight men on the Emerson campus, and everybody makes those kinds of jokes, but I think the reality is that it's the gay population is not as large as people claim it to be.
Yes and no. I think we do have a large gay population here, and we tend to be very loud about it, but I think because of that loudness, it's portrayed as something bigger than it is. There are a lot of straight kids on campus, contrary to popular belief, but I don't think it's quite as large as most people think.
I think we need more things on the institutional level to guarantee that we are LGBT friendly. For example, having an LGBT space, just like we have the cultural center, would be really helpful, or having a full-time faculty member, or staff member rather, whose job it was to specifically advocate for LGBT students and be a resource for their needs. I think those are some examples of the ways that we can become a more LGBT friendly campus.
I think more information and like more workshops, more classes, more things in general involving education on the trans community. You need to really understand that LGBT has to encompass everything. So like, I feel like if people were more educated, then they would be less quick to judge. But I feel like we need to take that on ourselves to educate more people.
To be more LGBT friendly, I think they need to focus more on the B and T, because I feel like lots of places are very lesbian and gay friendly, but they, and they're like, oh, we're LGBT or LGBTQA or LGBTQIFZHY whatever friendly, but really they're just like, yeah, that means we're accepting of lesbians and gays, but they don't realize how much of the spectrum they're actually living out.
I think in general the students can be a little more active. I know like we are active in a sense, but like I said earlier, there is somewhat of a disconnection there because we kind of were in our Emerson bubble where, being gay is okay, and we kind of forget that others aren't necessarily as lucky, and so we forget to really fight for our rights. So I think more programming aimed towards straight allies could also help to get more people involved and also focus more on trans rights and those sorts of issues also, because it's not just LGB, there's a T there too.
I think it would be really nice for the college to have an office that is staffed by multiple people whose job it was to specifically support LGBT students in Emerson. I think that would be a really great thing for us to have.
I think as much as the GLBTQ Resource Center is for that community specifically, I really like to see more things geared towards allies and how to be a successful ally and how to actually be helpful and sort of involve the allies within the community.
I think something that could well serve the LGBT community and also those who are allies of the LGBTQ community, anything that could help bring people closer together, enable people to work better together, both in and outside the LGBTQ community, anything that could foster a kind of community between them.
I'd like to see more services focused strictly on the student, maybe LGBTQ focused counseling, maybe like someone who specializes in those sorts of issues. I think maybe a lot of help with like coming out and connecting with parents, and especially in college. I know a lot of people are actually coming out during this time, so services that would focus on that would probably be really helpful.
I think Emerson, something that is unique from an education anyone could receive elsewhere. So if someone went to another college in Boston and they just learned the same things, is that a BU LGBTQ education? Not necessarily. I think that we really need to kind of integrate LGBTQ issues into all of our curriculum in order for it to really be an Emerson LGBTQ education.
I think it means having more classes that integrate it without being solely focused on it. I feel like we all sort of need to become one Emerson community and acknowledge that, being gay makes you who you are in a way, but it doesn't completely define you ever. Like you can be trans and you can also be a billion other things, and that's not just who you are. So if we acknowledge that GLBTQ is one of your labels, but it doesn't mean that's the be-all, end-all, I think that we can all be one big Emerson community.
Well, again, with any kind of education, it's dependent both on the in-class and the extracurricular learning activities. again, like I said earlier, I've seen lots of opportunities at least being implemented for stuff like queer studies and LGBTQ education within the classroom, and obviously I think there's a lot of potential for that kind of education outside the classroom given the kind of community that Emerson has. I think it does lend itself to a kind of unique experience that I don't think that other colleges might be able to provide.
LGBTQ education at Emerson, it consists of a variety of things. I think in our academic programs there's definitely a focus on it, at least to some degree, but I also think it extends beyond that also. There's a lot of service work involved, there's a lot of people who are involved in activism either in Emerson's campus or outside of it. So I think Emerson in general pushes a LGBTQ education that focuses on spreading awareness and just being accepting of other people regardless of their sexual orientation or their race or like whatever differences there may be. So I think overall it does a good job. It tries to reach across all kinds of branches and include, academics, but also what you can learn outside of the classroom as well.